Hey guys, welcome to the channel. It's your boy Logan. Hey, quick notification just before we start the video to hit the like, subscribe, and comment down below. Also hit the bell notification. It lets you know when I upload a video. Before we start today's video, before we get into this meat and potatoes of the Supreme King archetype, I wouldn't call it an archetype specifically. Let's just say these 13 cards work best in conjunction with the Odd Eyes deck. If you're building an Odd Eyes deck, add these 13 cards as staples. Should you add 3 of them per deck? I guess if you're going 60 cards, but if you're going 40, then 1 or 2 per deck. Let's just read the effects and see which one would be perfect for, because I personally think that traps and spells should be considered standard if you can, if it allows you to, because we know there's limited and stuff due to the card bans and stuff and card limitations. Spells and traps, if you are allowed to add all 3. This is a standard rule for all decks that I'll be covering. So let's go. Supreme King Rage. If you control a Supreme King Zark, destroy all other monsters on you control as possible except Supreme King Zark. Okay, so Supreme King Zark stays on the field, and we'll get to Supreme King Zark and what a beast it is. And if you do, special summon up to 4 Supreme King Dragon monsters with different names from your hand, deck, extra deck, or graveyard, ignoring summoning conditions. This basically has all the Supreme King dragons covered for you, like on lock. If you have, it's nearly impossible to bring out Supreme King Zark, but if you do, and this trap is on the field and not destroyed or in your hand, and you play it on your next during your opponent's turn, yeah, they screwed. They are screwed. Okay, so where was it? Alright. Where were we? Extra deck or graveyard, ignoring summoning conditions. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 Supreme King Dragon Xyz monster you control. Attach 2 Supreme King Dragon monsters as its materials from your graveyard or face up on the field, or face up from your extra deck. We'll get to that Xyz monster in a minute. It's really good. It's really good. I have it in my Arcswingen deck. Moving on to the next card, Supreme King Get Infinity. I was reading this card before I started recording. Okay, here we go. If you control a monster you cannot pendulum summon, this effect cannot be negated once per turn. Wait, back up. This effect cannot be negated. I understand why. This is its pendulum effect. I understand why they just legitimately want you to pendulum on the first go and outright knock out your opponent in one move, provided you have polymerization or fusion gate or some sort of fusion, like miracle fusion or something. So yeah, I understand that. We'll get to its scales and my opinion on the level and scale, and yeah. Okay. Once per turn, if you control a Supreme King Zark, you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, gain life points equal to its attack. Okay. This is basically used to blot out that 6,000 attack that one of the triple D synchro monsters gets. I think it's Gusking High Alexandra. I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to check on that later, or you guys can let me know in the comments. So that's its Pendulum Effect. Its on-field effect reads as follows. We're gonna cover the pendulum scale and the level in a minute. Don't worry about that. Once per turn, you can target one other face-up card you control, destroy both of them, and if this card it and this card, and if you do special summon one Dragon Xyz or Pendulum monster from your extra deck, but its attack and defense becomes 0. It has its effects negated also. It cannot be used as material for Synchro or Xyz summon. There's a way out of that. It's called fusion summoning. And there's a card that allows you to fusion summon without... Yeah. Within this archetype, by the way. Within this archetype. And we'll get to that in a minute. We'll get to that card in a minute. Synchro or Xyz, yeah, okay. If this card in the monster zone is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can place this card in your Pendulum zone. Pretty good effect. Pretty good effect. You can base what this basically allows you to do is hit it up in the Pendulum zone if it's destroyed. So playing it in defense, and yeah. Okay. So let's get back to that. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, let's talk about the scales and the levels. I always say the higher the scale, the lower the level. And there's a reason I say that. That way the Pendulum Effect and the level makes sense. This, on the other hand, is a scale 13 and a level 7. It makes no sense at all. But again, my personal opinion. Its attack is 0, its defense is 0, it's a fiend type Pendulum Effect monster with a dark attribute. Sorry, my mouse is jumping all over the place. Its counterpart is Supreme King Gate 0. Here's where the scales match the level, but we'll cover that in a minute. Let's get to its Pendulum Effect. If you control a Supreme King Zark, you take no damage. Once per turn, if you have a Supreme King Gate Infinity in your other Pendulum zone, you can destroy both cards in your Pendulum zone, and if you do, add a Polymerization spell card or Fusion spell card from your deck to your hand, unless you're Synchro, Fusion, and Xyz summoning in one go. I don't suggest you use this effect. It's a last minute effect. This also has a similar effect to this card effect basically has a similar effect to this. Will cover the scales, the type, and the attribute, as well as attack and defense after we've read this. Once per turn, its card effect reads, once per turn, you can target one other face-up card you control, destroy both it and this card, and if you do, special summon one Dragon Fusion or Synchro monster from your extra deck. But its attack and defense becomes 0. It has its effects negated, and it cannot be used for materials for Synchro or Xyz summoning. Fusion. I'm just saying, fusion. Fusion would be the way out here. If this card would be destroyed in your monster, add it to your Pendulum zone. Okay, so same effect. Basically same effect. Alright, then we have a field spell for this quote-unquote archetype. I'm not going to say it's an archetype per se. It has to have more than this as support. More than one spell, one trap as support. And I don't consider Pendulum monsters actual spells. Yes, they have spell effects, but they're not actual spells. Spells are, well, these. You can see the color of the stuff, but if you disagree, go ahead and comment in the section. Let us go ahead and read this card, Supreme King's Castle. It is a field spell. Its effect reads, you can fusion summon fusion monsters with that must be special summoned with Dark Fusion. This seems to be more of a Jaden Yuki card, and I don't know why that is. This looks like it could be a possible successor to... We're not going to keep on reading this card text. You probably already read it, Supreme King's Castle. Most of you probably already know it and how good of a card it is. Let's go on to Supreme King Dragon Odd Eyes. This is a counterpart to the original Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon, or Odd Eyes Dragon if you would like, or any of its variants. It is a level 8 skill for why did you mess up this shit? Actually, no, they didn't mess it up. They didn't mess it up. Not even close. They just give it one extra level and the same exact scale. It is a dark attribute dragon type pendulum monster. Let us read its effects. Its pendulum effect reads with 2,100 attack, with 2,500 attack and 2,000 defense. I am sorry about that. I'm like all over the shelf today for some reason. Not like I'm not in every other video. But let us read this stuff. You contribute one Supreme King Dragon monster, destroy this card, and if you do, add one pendulum monster with 1,500 or less attack from your deck to your hand. Here it is again, guys. This card is basically telling you that if you destroy it, you can just add Time Gazer, Stargazer Magician from your deck to your hand. So it supports that. It does. You contribute, let's read its actual card effect. You can contribute 2 Supreme King Dragon monster special summon this card from your hand, and if you if your pendulum monster battles your opponent's monster, any damage calculation inflicted on your opponent is done. During the battle phase, quick effect, you contribute this card special summon up to 2 face-up Supreme King Dragon monsters and or Supreme King Gate pendulum monsters from your extra deck in defense position except Supreme King Dragon Odd Eyes. This has a similar effect to the original Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon, but it adds to the fact that you could now effectively either Xyz or Fusion on your second main phase, which I think is cool. It's a cool effect, and the artwork really helps that it kind of looks like the original Odd Eyes. Let's move on to this card. Supreme King Dragon Dark Worm. I'm not really a fan of this card. It's a very balanced card. To say the least, it's a level 4 scale 5. Very, very balanced. I think maybe the thing wants to have this as like a precursor. If you have this on the field, like, it will count as a Dragon Xyz. A Pendulum Dragon card. So in that way you can synchro or fusion summon a Supreme King Zark, and we'll get to that. It's one of the most unique cards I've found out there. It's basically a counter to a certain quintet magician. But let's go ahead and read this Pendulum Effect. But before we get to the Pendulum Effect, let's read its attack and defense, because it's a dark attribute dragon type Pendulum Effect monster. Its attack is 1,800, its defense is 1,200. Again, fairly standard for a level 4. I don't think the scale matches it. It should be higher on the scale. Yeah, it should be higher on the scale. It should really be higher on the scale. On the Pendulum scale, anyway. Let's read its Pendulum Effect. Once per turn, if you control no monsters, you can place one Supreme King Gate Pendulum monster from your deck in your Pendulum zone, and also you can Pendulum summon monsters. You cannot Pendulum summon monsters for the rest of the turn of this turn, except dark monsters. Okay, that makes so much sense, but so little sense at the same time. Let us move on very quickly to its actual card effect. If this card is normal special summon, you can add one Supreme King Gate Pendulum monster from your deck to your hand. This is support for Supreme King Gate, and which I personally think should have its own archetype and should not fall under the Supreme King archetype. So yeah, let's not cover that. Moving on to its next effect. If this card is in your graveyard and you control no monsters, you can special summon this card. You can only use the effect, each effect of Supreme King Dragon Dark Worm once per turn. Fairly okay, fairly okay. I guess that's an okay kind of effect. For Supreme King SKD. We're just gonna call it SKD from now on. Moving on to one of my personal favorite cards. I have this. I have 2 copies of this specific card in one of my decks. I'm not gonna tell you guys which one it is because it's so good. Supreme King Dragon Clearwing. This is a really good card. It is a counterpart to Clearwing Synchro Dragon or Clearwing Dragon. It is a Synchro level 8 Dark Attribute Dragon type monster with 2500 attack, 2000 defense. Its effect reads: 1 tuner, plus 1 or more non-tuner Dark Pendulum monsters. Ladies and gentlemen, I will show you a card one of these days that is perfect for this. And yeah, it is perfect for this. That's how you summon. The first part that I just read is how you exactly summon it. If this card is synchro summoned, you can destroy all face-up monsters your opponent controls once per turn. No, your opponent controls. Just your opponent controls. No once per turn. Only when it's synchro summoned. Once per turn before the damage calculation, if this card battles your opponent's monster, you can destroy that card, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the destroyed monster's original attack. Plus King High Alexander, High King Flame King Genghis, all of the cards that are way above in attack for this card will basically say, screw you, you're taking 3000 up to 3000 to 3500 damage in a single move. So yeah, damn, this card is boss. It has one more effect. If this card is in your graveyard, you can tribute 2 Supreme King Dragon monsters, special summon this card. It doesn't return with the effect of destroying all if it's synchro summon, it doesn't count as a synchro summon, it's a special summon. So yeah. And here is the Xyz card I was talking about because I use this very often in Xyz decks. I think it's really cool. I always have Pendulum and monsters in my deck because I love the mechanic so much. So yeah, this requires 2 level 4 Dark Pendulum monsters to summon. It is a Dragon type Dark Attribute Xyz effect card. It is a rank 4, 2500, 2000 defense. This is the counterpart to Dark Rebellion Dragon, as you guys can see by the names, and most of these cards will have some indication as to what card it is related to at the end of the dragon. It goes SKD and then either Odd Eyes, Clear Wing, Starving Venom, or Dark Rebellion, in that order. So I love this card because it has a really good effect. It beats its original in many ways. So let's cover its effect real quickly. Once per turn before battle calculation, if this card battles your opponent's monster, you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card until the end of the turn. Change the attack of that face-up card, that face-up opponent's monster, to 0, and if you do, this card gains attack equal to the original attack of your opponent's monster. See what I mean? It beats its original counterpart so much. During the next effect, which is a quickie, during the battle phase quick effect, you can return this card to your extra deck, special summon up to 2 face-up Supreme King Dragon and or Supreme King Gate Pendulum monsters from your extra deck in defense position. Did I say during the battle phase? Okay, so you can attack with this and then it's still part of the battle phase, you can activate that effect and basically, ha. Moving on. Choreograph Magician. This is one of two spellcaster dark attribute spellcaster types. Again, with a high level, high scale, confusing, very, very confusing. Dark attribute spellcaster type Pendulum Effect monsters. There's only two. Just like there's only two fiend types, there's only two spellcasters. So let's cover this Pendulum Effect real quickly. Its attack, by the way, is 2000, and its defense is 1700. So let's quickly cover these Pendulum Effects. During your main phase, you can destroy this card, and if you do, take one Time Gazer Magician from your hand or deck and either place it in your Pendulum Zone or special summon it. You can only use the effect of Choreograph Magician once per turn. Because we'd want that, wouldn't we? This is the thing we want. Here's the deal with this card compared to... let me just drop the volume on my headphones a little. It's very distracting. That music in my head is very distracting. Yeah, so here we go. This is a better card than Time Gazer Magician. I love it because of the fact that you can basically Time Gazer Magician your into your Pendulum Zone without, you know, having the need to quote unquote have that card, have no monsters on your field. You can basically Time Gazer Magician, and Time Gazer Magician has a brilliant Pendulum Effect, which personally, in my opinion, is really good. The once per turn thing is dude, it's destroyed, and as you guys can see by the big one on, you can only have one per deck. It makes no sense. All right, that's here once per turn. It's a limited one per deck, so it makes no sense that you should be doing like, okay, whatever. Like, put that in your card text. You can only use one, so yeah. But anyway, if they decide to add like limit this card to 2, then maybe I can understand why that text is there. But since it's a one per deck kind of card, don't even bother. Okay, let's cover its actual effect. If this card you control is destroyed by battle and or card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. If a card you control is destroyed, okay, special summon from your hand, then you can special summon one monster from your hand. Okay. Let's back up and break this down just a little bit. If a card you control, not this specific card, a card you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand, then special summon one monster from your hand. So it's a double summon. Okay, you can banish this card you control plus 4 monsters, plus four monsters from your hand, field, or graveyard each time a pendulum exceeds synchro and fusion in their names. Special summon one Supreme King Zark from your extra deck. This is treated as fusion summon. Hello. That last bit. It's an easy out, isn't it? It's a real easy out, isn't it? Alright, let's move on. Starving King, Supreme King Starving Venom. Oh, this card is either really good or really bad, and I hate that it is both. I am so sorry for the jeez, this is... Yeah. Okay, let's cover its effects. It's a fusion. You don't need... personally, my opinion, you don't need polymerization to fusion summon this card. You don't. Personal experience, I'm telling you that you don't. Okay. Let's cover its effect. 2 Dark Pendulum monsters must be fusion summoned or special summoned by tributing the above materials you control. In which case, you do not need polymerization. See what I'm saying? Once per turn, you can target one other monster on the field or in the graveyard until the end of the turn. this card's name becomes that monster's original name, and replace that effect with this effect with that card's original effect. It's a copycat. It's a copycat card. Moving on. Also, for the rest of the turn, if a monster attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing damage. If this monster, specifically this monster, attacks it, okay, so it can do some piercing damage. Cool. Cool. Moving on. Alright. Astrograph Sorcerer. Choreograph Sorcerer. Astrograph Sorcerer. Here's where the scales make sense. Level 7. Yeah. Scale 1. 2500 attack, 2000 defense. Again, here's the second half of that spellcaster set. Guess what? It's really cool. Its Pendulum Effect is really cool. Just very much like Choreograph Magician. But for Stargazer. Alright, let's read its effect. Just get over that top hill. Its Pendulum Effect. During your main phase, you can destroy this card, and if you do, take one Stargazer Magician from your deck, from your hand or deck, and if you do, place it in your Pendulum Zone or special summon it. You can only use the effect of Astrograph Magician once per turn. Okay, it's destroyed, and again, limited to 1. So that makes no sense that this, yeah, unless they're gonna at some point increase the limitation on this card. Let's move on to its actual effect. If this card you control destroys, if a card you control is destroyed by, okay, it's basically the same thing. And you can, guess what? It's the same thing. It's the same effect, just a different scale, and its Pendulum Effect basically has time gate. It's the same effect as Choreograph Magician. Let's move on. Nope, we're not covering this one because I have had bad experiences trying to summon this, and yeah. Moving on. Here's the ace in the hole for this archetype. It is Supreme King Zark himself. The artwork itself is very, very beautiful. I love this card. I've only been able to summon it a handful of times. It really is a hard card to summon. And when I say a handful of times, I can literally count on my one hand, how many times I've been able to summon this in an actual duel. It's super rare for me to summon this, especially if I'm pairing it with an Odd Eyes deck or a Performance Pal deck. But yeah, let's go. Let's cover its Pendulum Effect. It is a Pendulum monster. It's a fusion Pendulum monster, whereas in the anime it was a hybrid Fusion Xyz, Synchro and Effect type Pendulum monster. Let's cover this card and its Pendulum Effect. Starting with its Pendulum Effects. Fusion, Synchro and Xyz monsters you control cannot activate. Your opponent controls, not you. Your opponent. Your opponent controls cannot activate their effects. Once per turn, when a card is added from the main deck to your opponent's hand, except during the draw phase or the damage step, destroy that card. Its Pendulum Effect is like, can we get like it to also do like effect damage? Konami, if you're watching, can we get this card to do like at least a quarter of the attack of the special drawn card, the drawn card, at least a quarter of its attack as effect damage. Moving on to its actual effect and its requirements for summoning. 4 dragon monsters, 1 fusion, 1 Xyz, 1 synchro, 1 pendulum. That's it. Must be fusion summon. If this card is special summon, destroy all your opponents. All monsters. Wait, it's all cards. It's all cards. Oh shit. It's all cards your opponent controls. Cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects, your opponent cannot target this card with card effects. Well, this is a basic screw you to... It is. It's a basic screw you to Quintet Magician, isn't it? They needed to find an OP card that's better than Quintet Magician, and they found it. Here it is, right here. Because Quintet Magician can legit just take out your whole front and back row. They needed to match it and then add onto it. Okay, back to its effect. Your opponent controls. This card cannot be destroyed by opponent's card effects. Your opponent's cards cannot target this card with effects. If this card destroys your opponent's monster by battle, you can special summon one Supreme King Dragon monster from your deck or extra deck. If this card is in the monster zone, is destroyed or by battle or card effect, can only be destroyed by battle, you can place this card in your pendulum zone. And I mean, its pendulum scale and level is matched. This is the perfect match. Level 12, scale 1, perfectly matched scale and level. Higher the level, lower the scale. Remember that. This card is brilliant. It is brilliant. So that was it, guys. That was the Supreme King, quote unquote, archetype. And its ace being Supreme King Zark is way too cool. That being said, I'm gonna get moving on. Hey, just listen, if you guys are into your war and survivals type of games, just putting my mic back onto its stand, go ahead and check Easy12 Gamer 12 over on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter at Logan Munion, capital L, capital M. Hey, and if you're on Instagram, just head out and search Logan Munion YT. And yes, that really is me on both pictures. Until next time, guys, just remember to hit the like, subscribe, comment, and share. Also hit the bell notification. Until then, just remember to be nice to each other, because being nice is free.